Hello and welcome to the Lost Art Podcast. I'm Garen. I'm here with Paul.
How are you?
And this week we're going to do something we talked about for ages, and I know we say this every
at least 6
week.
months. No, but like we kept putting this one off, because we knew we'd have to do loads of work for it.
Yeah, exactly. And it's not the time to be doing loads of work when we can't even be in the same room together. Well, we can, but we choose not to be because we don't really like each other anymore.
It sounds like we're Fleetwood Mac.
We don't really like each other anymore. We decided this works better. Just one facet of the personality, just the voice. That'll do.
I don't have to look at you or hear you crunching those peanuts.
Yeah,
although
exactly.
I would. It makes no sense. I would have to hear it.
Of course. You want to hear that lovely noise as I toss you a bag of chili nuts. That's what you want. Them delicious chili nuts. So what we're doing tonight, it's actually, you're better off explaining it because I'll overcomplicate it. It's your...
Jesus, I definitely will, but look, I'll give it a go.
Yeah.
Right, so we want to pick the most influential songs from the last 6 decades or so. So we've one each per decade. So we've got 60s up until the 2010s, where it starts getting much harder. The songs that we think are the most, not even necessarily iconic, because there's loads of iconic songs that are not influential. We dug into what happened after that song. What when that came out, and
for
crazy.
What reason? Yeah,
for what reason? Yeah.
The thing about a playlist like this, honest to God, a playlist like this could realistically be 1,000 songs long. So, the way I approach this playlist is I took a song that I knew was kind of popular, but had an impact in some facet of the music industry.
That's
that made it kind of a little bit more progressive, pushed it forward, created a style, or became the standard. Afterwards. So that's kind of the way I looked at it.
So it actually the playlist reads like a best of music.
It pretty much is the best of music.
Basic cunt best of music.
100% basic.
But there's a reason.
But 100% it's there. We're gonna pull songs out of the bag here that you're just gonna go, oh, for fuck's sake, and it's gonna, honest to God, it's gonna sound like we know nothing about music. You know what I mean?
I know, but when you write the most influential, you're not gonna get a cool, weird, under the radar song. It's the opposite. It's the absolute opposite of...
Exactly.
First of all, to be influential, generally, it has to be massively well known and have a huge scope and spread for it to be influential. Not necessarily to be influential, but the most influential per decade.
Yep.
So we will do some undercover influentials to appease people.
Yeah. At some stage, we'll just pull out some absolute shit you've never heard of to make us sound like real intelligent.
Yeah, like there's a lot of deadly stuff There's loads of deadly stuff, like bands that's another one we will do soon. Bands that missed the mark but influenced everyone. Like, I don't know, Pixies or something, like, you know.
Yeah.
But these are the ones that are definitely.
These are the ones. These are the main lump of dinner on your plate for every generation, essentially, every decade.
But in our defense, we looked into why and what happened. So might be.
So let's push on. Who is your first one?
Well, we're starting with the 60s.
Yep.
So it's Johnny Obvious, but I chose the most influential band of the 60s and probably ever, actually.
Yeah.
But picking a track wasn't that easy because it's the Beatles. Picking an influential track from the Beatles is fucking rough. So I did give myself a slightly hard job in that regard. So the Beatles influenced and spawned a million bands with the song I Want to Hold Your Hand. But that's influential, right?
Yep.
They influenced so much pop music with the song Yesterday. But I really wanted to dig deeper and find the moment that in the 60s the Beatles were at their most influential, and the song that everyone went, right, that could be the most influential one. So it has to be Sgt. Pepper's, the song, I think.
Has to be,
definitely the album.
The
song, like, even when I first heard it, like, because I didn't hear any Sgt. Pepper's growing up. I heard all fucking I Want to Hold Your Hand Yesterday. So when I found Sgt. Pepper's, I was like, is this like a popular Beatles album? Like, they're all popular Beatles.
Yeah. There's no hidden album, like,
As a kid, I was like, I love this, and Magical Mystery Tour and all the mad shit, because it's cartoony and fun. So I think Sgt. Pepper's, the first track, obviously the title track off the album which is considered possibly the first mainstream concept album of all time. So it's not, it is and it isn't, but because even the Beatles don't agree that it's a concept album. John Lennon himself said It's not really. You can take any of these songs and stick them onto another album. It wouldn't be. He does.
Yeah, I mean, it's still definitely pop music. I think there wasn't one of their things behind it that they wanted to see. Like, everybody knew it was the Beatles, but they wanted to have a bit of fun by kind of getting out of their own skin.
Yeah, and it still is, even if it's loose, it is a concept album. It starts with the introduction of a gig, and the whole thing plays out like a live show.
Yeah,
which is obviously it's not, because it's produced.
Of course,
produced.
Yeah.
So this is the first time for me the Beatles got really surreal. I know that like Yellow Submarine was on Revolver before, but Revolver was like the mature album.
Yeah.
After Rubber Soul, which was still jangly. Great though, I love Rubber Soul. From Rubber Soul on, or my favourites. I don't really listen to much before that, to be honest.
Yeah, the Mersey Beat stuff is it's fun.
Yeah, it's not for me. Yeah, it's important. Yeah,
there's a million of them.
But it was, and I do have to say that arguably, like, Zappa has his hat in the ring for the most influential, surreal, first even concept album with the Mothers of Invention, but it wasn't Sgt. Pepper's.
Yeah.
That's the difference. Like, a lot of people will cite it, and actually, Zappa's one would probably directly influence more of the music that I like than the Beatles would have. Maybe. But then again, it's nearly impossible to quantify who the Beatles influenced directly that we listen to nowadays. I think the answer is probably everyone, through someone else, or through someone else. Well, I don't think think the influence aspect is in any doubt. It might be a bit obvious.
No, and only absolute edgelords fucking hate the Beatles. You know what I mean?
I hate all of the Beatles.
Yeah, I mean, it's all shy. I mean, you can say I don't like that, but this is great. That's fine. Yeah. That's subjective. You know what I mean? But it's not subjective to say the Beatles are shy. That's just stupid. You know what I mean? It starts with the same letter, but it's not at all similar. Like, fucking hell, lads. Like, it's the fucking Beatles.
It's like 110 cool points on the internet. We said the Beatles, right?
Oh,
but I don't actually really. The people who say that have the tiniest scope I've ever heard. Some people go, "Fuck me, man. I hate the Beatles," but I can see it. Like, the way I am a Queen, I don't even hate Queen. But, I'm not going to
it's not for you.
It's not for you.
That's fine.
So, Revolver, some people would say, was the more influential. I really don't think it was. Like, that proves that they were far more than what was seen at the time as some kind of boy band with guitars.
Yeah.
Like I said, a lot more mature songwriting. But I think Sgt. Pepper's was the first huge cross-generational just something that could push music really, really forward and noticeably huge amounts. Like, everyone could see how well their songs were getting and more mature and off the track of the live songs.
Yeah, well,
they were stopped playing live by then, you know.
Yeah, exactly. You have to consider the fact as well that the Beatles, like, were and probably still are the most popular band in the world. So when people start bringing up, like, oh, Zappa done this and Captain Beefheart done this, that's great. But, like, to the fucking, 6,000 people worldwide that were actually listening at that in that era, you know what I mean? Yeah. The thing about the Beatles was every single fucker on earth was listening to the Beatles. There wasn't, you could find a cave in Afghanistan and they'd have a battery powered turntable with fucking Revolver on it. So for the Beatles to turn around and kind of stop making traditional pop songs like a la Revolver and start banging out mad shit, like Sgt. Pepper's.
Right. And a lot of the influence comes from the fact that they had the world's ear. Zappa didn't really. Zappa had to get it through his music. So you'd start off on a thing where no one was really particularly listening. Now, like I said before, Zappa's stuff influenced the music I like probably more. I can almost see it like going into Mr. Bungle and Rage Against the Machine. You know what I mean? I could see it a lot more closer than I can with this. But I also think that Zappa and another band that you're about to talk about had more of a societal influence than the Beatles. Like, had the whole flower power generation thing happening as well around Sgt. Pepper's, but it wasn't really. It was actually too broad.
Yeah,
I think Zappa had the people who were really fucking sick of the establishment and all that.
Yes, exactly. Sick of pop music and had their own fucking like Zappa was definitely the cool kids corner, and the Beatles was just screaming kids. You know what I mean?
But it did cross a lot of generations.
Yeah, exactly. Those screaming kids grew up, had kids of their own, and they weren't screaming kids anymore. So they were there with cool parents telling their kids about fucking these savage albums they listened to, and not that many of them are listening to Zappa. They were all listening to the Beatles. Maybe 15% of them like Zappa as well. You know,
and not like that Sgt. Pepper's is still influencing people. I'm not saying Zappa's not. I had to throw Zappa in there because it would have been a choice for me if I was going down the cool dude route. But I have to be honest with you, if I'm picking the most influential song of the 60s that I know of, and I pick something from the Mothers of Invention, people are going to, it's a influence. Look, like I said, we'll do that podcast another time. That was my choice for the 60s. Who is your most influential song for you?
Of the 60s, I picked Velvet Underground and Nico. I'm Waiting for the Man. This was one of those songs that I don't know if I'm a huge Velvet Underground fan.
Yeah, me neither.
Like
I you know what? I listen to them and go, but I never go. I don't listen to a full album.
Yeah,
the lemon and the banana.
Now the reason I picked them as one of the most influential bands of the 60s, and this song as one of the most influential songs of the 60s, is mostly down to the relationship between the Velvet Underground and art in general.
Yeah.
I don't think before Velvet Underground there was a publicly conceived connection between kind of artistic movements and musical movements. Now, I know in New York in particular, especially in the 60s and 70s, like all these people ran in the same groups. Like there were like fucking, there was beat poetry nights and beatnik fucking cafes and all this kind of shit. Like, and they all kind of were merged together. But there were gigs like where people played music, and there was fucking like beat poetry nights, and like rarely do these things fully the spectrums kind of cross. But this to me is the first time where music is fully folded in to the art scene. The main reason for that is obviously Andy Warhol. So the Velvet Underground formed in 1964 by Lou Reed. Everybody knows that. So it's real weird. They had 100 different fucking names, and they were just playing random gigs, doing kind of garagey style music. It didn't really matter, and it was only later on. I have his name written down here. It's very fucking interesting, actually. A guy called John Cale.
Oh yeah.
John Cale, he was actually a Welsh guy who had moved to New York to study classical music. And
I didn't know he was Welsh.
Welsh, yeah.
I thought he was... Jesus.
Yeah, he's a Welsh guy. So he moved to New York to study classical music. And while he was studying, he started hanging around with all these new experimental composers. And he started messing around with like kind of weird ambient drones on keyboards and shit like that. And when he did meet up with Lou Reed, they decided, like, let's have a crack at fucking doing something. And they went through 100 different names. The Velvet Underground, I believe, originally came from it's the name of a book about it's about weird kind of weird sexual zeitgeist in the American people. Like, how,
the Velvet Underground is possibly one of the best names of all time.
It is bananas good, like, and it's perfect. Like, you can't think, a great name. You can't think of anything else that would make sense. Like,
Jesus, it's almost pretentious, but it just ducks under it to be almost gothy and cool. It's one of the best band names of all time.
It is, yeah. So they had met Warhol at a couple of art shows and a couple of cafes. Warhol decided he was going to manage them. Now, he only managed them for a little while, but the little kind of spark that he ignited in them was so kind of fucking furious that it just became outrageous. Their debut album came out in 1967, and it's the Underground, Velvet Underground and Nico, who was a German singer. And it was Andy Warhol who said, listen, you should get this girl over. She's fucking shit hot, and she's kind of artsy-fartsy, and I think I could do a lot with her here in New York. You put out an album with her, like, I'll fucking fund it, and we'll get a label to put it out, and all this kind of shit.
I didn't even know he funded it. That's cool.
Yeah, he threw money towards it. And he was actually a producer on that album as well. Which I don't know whether he done jack shit, to be fucking honest with you.
Yeah.
But when they first came out, nobody gave a shit. The mainstream was, no one gave a bollocks of shit about them until Warhol. He was huge. Like, Warhol, when you think of New York art, you think of Andy Warhol. Like, he's that big of a name. Until he kind of took them under his wing. And because they had this kind of avant-garde, kind of nihilistic fucking, like, they were one of the first bands that was, like, didn't seem to give a shit about like whether people liked them or not.
I think that's what puts me off Lou Reed sometimes. How much he sold that. Too much. Sold it too much.
Exactly. But I think that all comes from Warhol, where Warhol had told him, like, now I'm not putting all of Velvet Underground's fucking success on Andy Warhol, but there's a period of time at the start of this band where it's just like, name me any other fucking Velvet Underground albums bar the first one. Do you know what I mean? For your average Joe Soap, it's going to be very fucking difficult, and you could pick out that album cover from a fucking a Criminal lineup from a mile away as well. But yeah, John Cale, because he'd been messing with this droney kind of stuff, Warhol was mad into this, and Lou Reed was mad into this. He was like, let's do some fucking batshit mad stuff. Because apparently at the start, what they were doing was more kind of a beat poetry with weird bongo drums and fucking droney keyboard. Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
It's my nightmare.
But Andy Warhol had this art installation, and it was just this kind of like open all year round kind of fucking warehouse where he painted. He had the other artists and stuff in there doing stuff all the time. So he put the Underground in there as like the resident band. So they would like rehearse and play and just fuck around in there. Now they ended up having, they went through a couple of different members. I can't remember his fucking name. I think he was a guitar player with them. They used to have murder with him because he was so artsy that he would not. If you said, right, lads, you're on at 9 o'clock and you have 45 minutes, he would say, I'm not playing them. I was like, why? Because you can't tell me when to start playing and when to stop playing. I'll go up whenever I want. You know, this kind of shit. Like, they were so fucking, that was such a part of them. And because of that became a big fucking deal. Actually, I think this album might have been recorded and released around the same time.
Like, don't get me wrong, everybody in a band wants to do that. Imagine turning up again and go, I want to go on whenever the feeling's right, so you don't have to, fuck off.
Yeah, exactly, yeah.
Stage manager would be like, yeah, mate, you're not going on then. How about that?
Exactly. Now, they definitely influenced, I mean, you have to remember, this is like 1967. So you're good to 10 years off kind of punk, but the attitude was there to begin with. Now, I think that like new wave music owes more to Velvet Underground than punk per se, but I think the attitude was definitely a Velvet Underground thing. What have we got here? Oh yeah, this is great fucking. The label didn't know what to do with it apparently because it came out roughly around the same time as Sgt. Pepper's. So it was just gone. But nobody gave a shite about it when it came out. Much the same as when the band started. When that album came out, no one gave a fuck. It took years for it to like it's hard to describe. It's like this weird like undercurrent in the sea. Is the way when I've been reading about Velvet Underground, it's like they didn't rock the charts. They didn't make everything. Like, they didn't turn it into like giant pop or rock stars overnight. What they did do was kind of crack the foundations of music, especially in the New York scene, where like everybody who's seeing them was like, you can do that.
It seems to be the most subtly huge thing ever.
Yes, exactly. But like Brian Eno gave a great fucking quote a couple of years ago, and he said that album, in the first like 5 or 6 years of that album coming out, it only sold 30,000 copies. But every single person who bought a copy of that album, all 30,000 of them started a band. That was Brian Eno's quote. And
because that's concentrated influence.
Exactly. That's, like I said, it's like an undercurrent. You know, the waves are crashing, and you've got Beatles and Rolling Stones, and that's hitting the people. But there's they're name checked in everything. You know, well, they were, not so much anymore. Not so much anymore, yeah. I mean, a couple of other bands came along and done something kind of similar. But for me, the Velvet Underground, like, both of our choices for the 60s, I think, are pretty good. And I think...
Yeah, no, I think they're the two strongest.
Exactly. I also think they're both ends of the fucking spectrum, which is good.
Yeah.
You know?
No, I'm glad you picked them, because they are... Because, like you said, the art thing is extremely important.
Exactly. It's just the first meshing of it. And then you had, like, later on, you had Warhol acting the bollocks with, like, Debbie Harry and Blondie and stuff like that, you know. Yeah. He kind of, with his...
Yeah, it was like a little community.
Exactly. Like, he dipped his toes in music with Velvet Underground. Then kind of, all of a sudden, then he's like,
very
Blondie, who were fucking huge.
Very influential.
Yeah, exactly.
Very.
Right, so we're moving on to the 70s. So who is your pick for the 70s?
Yeah, we're here in the 70s. This
Yeah.
was my hardest pick of them all, including the later ones, which you think would be harder ones later. This was the hardest for me to pick.
I know, I've seen you change it, yeah.
I had to change it a few times because this decade itself, I think, is the most influential decade out of all the decades we're doing today. Obviously, we're not talking about 50s or 20s or 1700s. Like, I think of all the decades, the 70s is the most influential for the rest of music.
Yeah.
So the first thought, straight into the head, it's got to be God Save the Queen. It's got to be, right?
Yeah.
I mean, it's got to be.
It's the obvious jumper main for it.
I had it there, and then I was like, right. So as you mentioned before, that was the invention or the carry on of the attitude from Velvet Underground. But say Velvet Revolver, I'm like, no. But that attitude would bleed into like so many genres.
Yeah.
But I don't think musically Sex Pistols are as influential as some other bands from the 70s. So
yeah, I think they're culturally more influential than musically influential.
You see, that brought me on to like punk being huge in terms of attitude and how that attitude affected rock and roll and heavy metal. Then I went, fuck, heavy metal. I mean, it's got to be Sabbath, hasn't it? I have to pick Sabbath. Yeah. I have to pick Paranoid or Iron Man. Probably Iron Man by Sabbath. I thought I had it in the bank there, Grant. And I thought, that's punk. Is punk not bigger than metal? And I went, no, it's not really. And then I went, fuck. It finally just hit me. I went, oh man, yeah, it's neither of them at all. So I picked a song that influences people from like the likes of Depeche Mode to Jay-Z, to Prodigy, to Live Crew. Not only like genres, but a lot of musical and technology approaches to like doing things. So, drum roll. Now, the most influential track for me from the 70s is Kraftwerk, Autobahn.
Yeah, I think so.
Because this is the start of electronic music, really. And that is actually bleeds into hip hop. It bleeds into goth music.
Yeah,
it bleeds
very
into
much.
techno. It bleeds into even just David Bowie's music.
Yeah.
So it's so fucking huge.
Yeah.
From that song Autobahn, and I wanted to pick the model because it's the more, but they were really influencing people way before the model, because I think the model came out. So the Autobahn is 1974. I think the model is 3 years after that. So they'd already started. Autobahn was the first time everyone went, "What the fuck is this? Yeah. This is bananas. It's like mental."
The closest thing to that would have been like Thomas Dolby or something like that, but that was more of a novelty song than anything else. Like, you know, his stuff was.
Yeah, it's even hard to know whether Kraftwerk cared about being novelty or not, or even tried sometimes.
Yeah, I think they just done their own thing.
It's very tongue in cheek. A lot of it, like
when I was a young fella, I did not know the difference between Kraftwerk and Devo.
Yeah, to be fair, there's a huge like influence shine right there. Yeah, like the look is Kraftwerk.
Yeah,
you know, but Devo obviously play more traditional instruments. Well, you know, not that Kraftwerk didn't, but they mostly played just the synths each. Yeah. Now they're all multi instrumentalists as well. They started off actually as a band, but
probably like just straight krautrock fucking band, like.
Yeah, exactly. So Florian Schneider was the only one that could afford a keyboard. They were mad expensive.
Of course they were, and you had to build them yourself.
Yeah, he had a few quid. So I never checked into what the deal with him was and why he had loads of money, but apparently he was quite wealthy. I don't know.
Well, listen to his name. He has to be some sort of count or something, doesn't he?
Well, that's probably a regular name.
I don't know, man. I know loads of Germans. I don't know any of them.
Yeah. So.
I know this fella called Hans Gruber who died a few years ago.
The window incident, wasn't it? Oh, God. No, he didn't jump out a window, did he? No,
off the top.
Off the top, yeah. I'm thinking of Schuss the Fenster.
Yeah.
Like, I know what that means. That means shoot the window.
A terrible explosion in the building. And he didn't make it, yeah. So...
Speaking of typecasting Germans, they had an awful time when they first came out with the British press.
I believe it, yeah.
Really bad. They were like, there was reviews that said stuff like, "Is this what your fathers fought for, letting this music take over?" Just like, come on. And there was a lot of iconography mixing into mixing them with the Nazi stuff in Nuremberg and all, which like I really didn't get from from Kraftwerk. I mean,
No, not at all.
The suits, you're like, no, hang on,
no. The whole thing about Kraftwerk was like New Germany. You know what I mean? It was like what the model of New Germany. This is where the technologically advanced. Because Germany, I've been saying it for years. I don't know what it was like back then, but like Germany now is basically America too. It's not like Canada is not America too. Germany is. There's shops in Germany that are like American shops, like Trader Joe's and all. You know what I mean? Yeah. Like it's just that country was fucking American. But one half of it was.
But they're very, very good at keeping things very, very German though. At the same time, like traditional German stuff that like. I don't know, like not blowing all your money on stuff, like that. Yeah. Anyway, so the thing that makes this song unique is it's kind of revolutionary in a way that it was using Moog synths for the bass. They were playing on percussion pads. They had a real flute on it. It gave birth to the electro genre because it uses repetitive loops and has a robotic sound, and it's absolutely okay to use drum machines. Well, drum. It was played sort of on percussive.
They had sticks. They had pads.
I think it's like I don't know. It's possibly sampled anyway, but throughout the years, it was just drum machines and stuff like that, and it was okay. And it was like it's okay to sound robotic. It's like it doesn't sound real, but that's half the music I make now with synth stuff. Is because of Kraftwerk and stuff like that.
Absolutely.
So weirdly, they were influenced by James Brown. The Beach Boys, that's even, but also Velvet Underground. So it's all continuing.
There you go. Yeah,
continuing on.
I guarantee you can draw a line kind of through a lot of these bands.
Oh, definitely, definitely. Well, these are because these are the biggest, let's say, buttons to sew in.
Yeah,
to the threads. What the fuck? Where is this analogy going? I've tied myself into a backwards loop in the analogy with my knitting needle. Right? Look, there's no doubt that like trying to figure out who sampled. Bowie was a massive lover of their music, massively influenced. Jay-Z sampled them. New Order sampled them on Blue Monday.
Yeah,
they made that music cool, and they're still touring now. I know Florian Schneider, who left in 2009, he died this year. But they continue to tour, and it's Kraftwerk.
Absolute trailblazers. Like, not up for the discussion.
Like it's techno, or even a lot of hip hop.
Yeah, exactly.
Or goth.
It hits all.
Prodigy, you know.
Exactly. Yeah. Now their influence is not up for debate. It's just
give me your 70s one.
My 70s one is definitely up for debate, and I have to come at it from a weird angle. I picked Lynyrd Skynyrd with Freebird.
Yeah, I was like, okay, I'm gonna get the popcorn out for this one.
Yeah.
It's not influence. So
there's definitely okay. So like I said earlier, I had to kind of keep plucking at a thread. Okay, to kind of find the longest thread that led through the fucking decades for me. So, what I was thinking with Lynyrd Skynyrd, in particular with Freebird, was that this is one of the biggest songs that has kind of, how would you even put it? Okay, so you've got electric guitar, you've got acoustic guitar, but one of the big things is that you've got multiple parts to the songs. Okay, and I don't think that like. I've got two things going for this fucking two things that I think are influential from this one song from Freebird, right? I don't think guitar solos were as big a deal until Freebird was played, right? I think the guitar solo was just a part of a song where it was, if you're thinking about kind of 50s stuff, and you got 60s, there was a little bit going on, but the 60s leaned a little bit more towards little licks and the fucking you're back at your kind of jingly jangly. Well.
Like
exactly, there were just tiny parts.
All day and all night, but exactly. But it's very short.
Exactly,
so it's, like it's more of
there's just tiny little licks. Yeah, exactly. That were thrown in the 60s. You got your 50s kind of rock and roll, roll over Beethoven, right? And then you got your 60s, which are leaning towards more your kind of Dylan jingly jangly kind of stuff. The 70s is where fucking rock music hits. Right, the 70s is where like stadiums start getting filled up with proper fucking rock bands. And I'm talking like sex, drugs, and rock and roll is kind of becomes the modus operandi of bands. Right, so I think that Freebird is the most influential song early on, right? So it's fucking, they're formed in 64.
Yeah.
Debut album comes out in 73. Comes out early in 73.
Is this song on that?
Yes.
Right.
The
Okay.
album,
that's quite early in the 70s, yeah.
Exactly. The album version of the song is almost 10 minutes long.
Jesus.
Right? The
I
single
should have actually mentioned, sorry, that Autobahn is 22 minutes long, not the one we put on the thing.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
So the single version of Freeboard is just 4.5 minutes long, give or take.
Yeah.
And the album version is nearly 10. And they came out with, they done this redo version a couple of years ago where they found the master tapes and they came out with like an 11.5 minute version of it. They're dying for this song to be fucking huge. So, just the longest fucking song. So I've got two things. I've got guitar solos, which you've got like bands like Kiss and stuff like that start coming out afterwards. The whole kind of rock and roll fucking, like Sabbath have been around since like 1970, but solos were never, like there was solos in Sabbath, but Sabbath was kind of a different animal. Sabbath is more brooding fucking, like there's something kind of ethereal in Black Sabbath. There's not really in bands like Lynyrd Skynyrd. And one of the reasons I wanted to pick Skynyrd is because these guys were like the pinnacle of Southern rock, right?
Yeah.
Southern rock, as far as I'm concerned, became one of the most influential things in metal forever.
Yeah, especially...
well, you've got like Crowbar, Pantera, fucking like the list goes on and on and on. Exactly. It goes on and on and on. And then you end up with guys like Hank Tree, who are like, definitely have one foot in kind of Lynyrd Skynyrd and one foot in the kind of the rebel fucking rock and roll kind of country, outlaw country music. So, like I said, Lynyrd, there were definitely easier ways to go for the 70s influential song. But for some reason, when we were doing this list, I was thinking to myself, like, fucking Freeboard, why is it? I don't even, like, Freeboard's a good song.
Do you know what? If I heard Freeboard randomly on a CD that I found that I never heard it before, and stuck it on, I'd be like, well, that's the best song I've ever written.
Yeah, it's up there.
But people and being a rock DJ, it's vanilla ice cream for me now, so I can't tell. Also, the whole joke of play Freebird, that's around for a reason.
Yeah,
that's around for a reason.
Apparently, originally, it wasn't play Freebird. It was fucking play Smoke on the Water, is what people used to shout.
Oh, yeah.
And once Freebird came out, we're like, we don't want that anymore. We want fucking, we want Freebird. So yeah, like I said, for me, one of the most influential songs of the 70s. Now, it's got one foot with like its kind of lead guitar work, because like that whole stadium rock comes huge later in the 70s, fucking huge. And I think that owes an awful lot to just simply that solo. That solo is fucking insane, especially the album cut of it. It just goes on way too long, and like dum dum diddly 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 bum bum diddly diddly. There's nothing like that.
It is actually hard to do a solo for that long without getting bored.
Fucking right.
Trust me, I've heard Slash live, and he doesn't know how to do it. He play a solo for 10 minutes, and about a minute of that would be interesting. Honestly.
Exactly. The beauty of that solo in Freeboard is that the band are changing up behind the solo, which makes it sound like it's in different parts. So
it's like someone dancing. That solo is someone dancing.
Exactly.
Like, but in different ways.
You can see the arms flailing. Exactly.
And every little scoop and going back down and then back up again. And every like... I know, like I can't deny it. That's a great solo.
Exactly. But I think that solo is one of the things that influenced that kind of fucking big rock that came into the 70s, and then eventually we ended up in the 80s with like fucking hair rock. You ended up with fucking Motley Crue and Poison and all this kind of stuff. But even later on down the road, that whole kind of southern shit kicker fucking style that Lynyrd Skynyrd had, because the lads were knocking the bollocks out of each other on stage and all. Like, we're talking that level. And obviously fucking Ronnie Van Zant, the singer, was killed in an airplane crash alongside with one of the backup singers. The rest of the band are horrifically injured. They're still kind of doing the rounds. They brought in what's his name? Robbie Van Zant, his brother, who was also a singer. They brought his brother in to sing for a while. But like, there's a new remastered version.
8 load of them.
Yeah, there's a bunch of them. There was a bunch of them at one stage. But like that long form music, that wasn't necessarily experimental, much like we were talking about earlier with Zappa and stuff like that. This brought it into the kind of shit kicker, fucking rock and roll era.
I think like people forget that Lynyrd Skynyrd are still one of the biggest rock bands of all time.
Yeah,
because we're not in America. We don't listen. In Ireland. We don't like, and we don't like. I know loads of people are mad into them. We see the patches, a lot of them, which shouldn't be wearing anymore. Whatever, but like In America, they are probably bigger than Bon Jovi.
Still,
but realistically, because they probably are. I don't know. It's hard to know, but
it's hard to know from over here. But yeah, that was
Bon Jovi never really influenced anybody. Let's be honest. They were part of a wheel, a cog in a wheel.
Yeah, exactly.
You know what I mean? Let's be honest.
Exactly. But that was my choice for the 70s. Who was your choice for the 80s?
Yeah, moving to the 80s. Not that hard for me, really. Like, the 80s being my favorite era of music, but really not that hard because it's Michael Jackson, Thriller. I have to talk about how big this song was and for all the different reasons. Musically on its own could be very easily argued.
Yeah.
But just the song, just the raw audio on its own. But even then, I've got backups for all that. So, so not that Michael Jackson wasn't the best in the game before the 80s. This was the first time I think that he really stepped outside the Motown comfort zone.
Yeah.
That was Thriller. That was that album, which was him going, I'm done with disco. Bar a couple of the songs on it. No touch, but they're more of a funk. Back to, disco was a bit cheap. Disco and funk are very different. I think you know that and I know that. A lot of people couldn't tell the difference. Like, oh, come on.
No, there's definitely
it was plastic.
Yeah.
So he also went in a more rock direction with Thriller, which is still to this day, I think, one of the best reinventions that has ever happened in music. So talking about Madonna constantly reinventing herself, and even Aerosmith are a great example of bands do that. The Nickelback and Coldplay doing it in all the wrong ways, but
backwards, doing it backwards.
But I think that this was one of the most dangerous steps. I don't think Quincy Jones really liked the idea of it at all.
Yeah,
but I think Michael Jackson was like, no. Like, there was a huge backlash against disco. We're just randomly
like overnight.
No, fuck this. No, sick of this now.
Yeah.
We hated it when it first came in. Rockers hated it when it first came in. We got used to it and they wanted it gone again.
Yeah.
Kiss are a classic example of that.
Yes.
So Beat It and even Billie Jean have a real snarl to them, a real swagger in the songs. And I think Thriller is the precursor to Bad. I think Bad's a much better album. But Thriller is literally the start of the rock funk.
Yeah.
Michael Jackson, that is the just absolute. Like, before this, he was still obviously huge from being in the Jackson 5, and Off the Wall is a savage disco album. But, like, it's not Thriller or Bad
exactly.
or even Dangerous.
Yeah.
Actually prefer it to Dangerous, but listen to that another time. So, right. Not only was the track Thriller a more rock orientated kind of song that we're used to seeing from Michael Jackson, it had one of the most influential and revolutionary videos that has ever happened in the history. That's why Thriller is a package. It's not just a song. It's a package of the whole thing.
Yeah.
So when it came out, it kind of hit from all angles. It had a funk rock song, but a mini John Landis horror movie in it.
Yeah, that they showed in the cinema.
Yeah, with choreography that choreography wasn't even really being done at the time.
No,
you've seen it like that.
Wasn't a thing.
So in a lot of ways, I think Thriller's influence comes equally from the visuals than it does the song.
Yeah, like I said, it's the package, isn't it?
And like, I cannot imagine another type of video for Thriller, no matter how much I try. The song, the title would be garbage. What? Imagine he wasn't dressed up as a zombie dancing around.
Yeah.
You'd be like, Thriller, you'd be like, what are you talking about?
Yeah, shut up, you sap.
This means you don't think about it. It's like a horror thing. Brilliant. Yeah. And it will always be a Halloween song, but it'll also be more than that as well.
Yeah.
So Beat It actually came out almost 6 months, I think, before this, and it's arguably a more influential song musically on its own, but because of the video Thriller,
that video made all the difference. All the fucking difference.
So that's just the kind of start of it. Before Thriller, black artists, including Michael Jackson's videos, his own videos, could barely get on MTV.
Yeah, exactly.
But with this song being so good and the video so compelling, the MTV, as well as that, I was going to say MTV just decided. They didn't really just decide. So CBS Records, Walter Yetnikov, I think his name is, he came out and said to MTV, quote, I'm not going to give you any more videos.
If you don't do this.
I'm going to go public and tell them all about the fact that you don't want to play music by a black guy. They're like, whoa, no,
not like that. Yeah, the ears were shy.
So this was the start, really, genuinely, of black artists being played on MTV regularly. It just took the best thing ever to happen in music.
Yeah,
You know what I mean?
yeah.
For them to really have their arms twisted, even though there was like incredible stuff happening before, it needed to be the biggest thing ever.
Yeah.
And then it changed the way a lot of record labels marketed music, because now videos were as important as the song. That's the step going forward. The influence that I had on that. And my favorite thing about Thriller is influence-wise is that there's a difference between popular rock music like Elvis and the Rolling Stones and rock in pop music.
Yes.
Do you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So it means that years later, because of Thriller, we have rock infused pop that some people hate, but I fucking love. Girls Aloud, Sound of the Underground, Fighter by Christina Aguilera, Left Outside Alone by Anastasia. Like, I love those fucking songs.
Yeah, of course.
Because it's genuinely good riffs, some of Tattoo stuff as well. That's one example of how musically it did it, regardless of the video.
Yeah.
Because we do not want to ever talk about the video for Left Outside Alone by Anastasia, unless that was the one that was only allowed shown after 9 o'clock. That's cool. Like that one. So, once again, as a Michael Jackson record as well, the last point about it, it changed the game of recording quality production as well.
Yeah.
It pushed it sonically to an absolutely new place. It just didn't sound like anything else as well. So that's on a technical level as well. So yeah, Thriller is my most influential song of the 80s. It pipped Public Enemy's Fight the Power just to the post, I think.
I know, I thought about that as well.
Yeah, it's hard not to, isn't it?
Yeah, I really thought about that.
So that was my, give me your 80s one.
My 80s one, like you said, it was going to be Public Enemy, Fight the Power. It really was. And then I thought about it. I was like, you know, I kind of wanted to... I wanted to keep that one in my back pocket in case I couldn't figure it out. And I decided
it's 89 as well, so
it's very late in the game.
It is 80s and it is influential. But
yeah. I went with 1983 as Frankie Goes to Hollywood. Relax. That's what I picked.
Give me this one. I saw it and I was like, banger, but I won't. We never ask each other about the stuff before.
No, it just goes
wasting it all. Wasting it all on the
waste that good jip.
Podcast
keep that for the recording. Two fronts again. There hadn't really been a band that were so controversial since the Sex Pistols, right? Sex Pistols in 77 were just fucking banned across the board, kicked off the record label, the whole shebang. That was mostly down to fucking the fact that the lads in the band were fucking scumbags, especially Sid, and the fact that the name of them.
John Lydon sort of pretending to be one.
Yeah, exactly. Being like,
what are you talking about?
I'm not doing it.
I was trying to goad you into doing your Lydon impression.
No, I was just getting more and more Dark Crystal every time. No, I can't do it. Just make noises like that. You're John Lloyd.
We'll do it on the radio show for like an hour straight.
Exactly.
Grand.
So, like I said, two fronts. One, Frankie Goes to Hollywood were banned across the fucking board in 1984. So this song, Relax, comes out in 1983. I think the album came out in 1984, actually. But this was the time where like the single could precede the album by like 6 months, you know.
Yeah, absolutely.
And there was a DJ in BBC Radio 1 or whatever it was playing Relax, and he was like just fucking talking away. He's like, this song is great. And in the middle of the song, he looks over and sees the sleeve, and he's like, what the fuck is this? And flips it over, and he starts reading all the stuff on the sleeve. And he's just like, this is absolutely fucking obscene. And in the middle of the record, pulls it off, says it on air, that'll never be played on this fucking radio station again. And it starts this fucking... While he done this song was number 6 in the charts, right?
What is it? I can't remember I don't know if I've ever owned that album.
Fucking lads cuddling each other, let's put it that way. and
shocking.
And that leads into why this is so influential in the next one. But once BBC pulled the plug and fucking loads of people start fucking pulling the plug, once like BBC were definitely and still kind of are the trendsetters.
They're lost. It's a fucking banger.
Exactly, it's outrageous. So it went from being number 6 in the charts to being number 1 in the charts. Like within 2 days. Yeah, just like they fucked themselves over. Everybody started talking about it. Fucking in the newspapers, BBC decides to pull homosexual song off fucking air because of obscene content and blah 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 blah. So I actually found out something real cool that I'll tell you now in a second. But they made 4 music videos for Relax, And they were all 4 different music videos. One of them was actually made by Brian De Palma, who made Scarface and The Untouchables. He made one. The first one, who made the first one? Fuckity fuck. Someone famous made the first video. And they just kept getting banned. Because it's like that kind of... Okay, this leads into this into secondly why they're more influential, is that they were unabashedly homosexual. Yeah. Like the whole concept of Frankie Goes to Hollywood. Like, actually, the name I found out as well was from a magazine about Frank Sinatra going to America, and that was just a headliner of an article. Frankie Goes to Hollywood. I thought it was going to be mad deep.
They found out about that. No. There's more there as well.
Yeah.
Don't ever talk about him like that again.
Exactly.
Don't bring good Frankie's name.
Yeah, don't bring fucking old Blue Eyes into your fucking gay shit. But the fact that they were gay, they were unabashedly gay. Their videos were gay. It was them in fucking steel mills and all this kind of shit. They were one of the first kind of gay bands that took it seriously. You had like Village People before in the 70s, but that was very
I was going to say, yeah, it's super novelty. Even though they've got a few bangers, they were just hounded and humiliated.
Yeah, but also, you need to understand.
But they're both of every joke. For us as kids as well.
Oh, yeah, 100%. 100%.
You know what I mean?
But also, like, Village People were put together by, I think it was a French guy. A French guy put them together, a gay French guy who met, I think he might have met, the Village People weren't even a band. It was a singer. His second name was Willis. I can't remember his first name. He met him in a gay bar. And he was like, I'm after coming over here to get a little label started, and maybe you want to sing for me. And they put some stuff together, and then they decided to show all the shapes and colours and cultures of America in this band, the Village People. And they just hired a lot of dancers. Everybody in that band was a dancer. And then your man Willis, who was the singer and the songwriter, left. And so you're just left with this kind of karaoke version of the band. Yeah. But anyway,
I think we talked about like before. Just to make this like more of a dangerous thing that they did. Yeah. We talked about Joe Bryant before. Do you remember the first openly gay mainstream rock star, and how the record label went, let's never do that again?
Yes, exactly.
This wasn't too long later.
This is 1983. Like this is
he died in 83. But he was doing it in the mid to late 70s, and it took until then for him to go, are we allowed like push gay music? Like,
exactly. Well, you have to look at what Frankie Goes to Hollywood and Holly Johnson in particular, like how they pushed the kind of the way the public looked at and phrased music that was kind of in the gay spectrum. Like I said before this, you had the fucking "It's fun to stay at the what" and "Go West," and then "I'm fucking in the Navy." Like they're all mad tongue in cheek kind of garbage. They're fun, but they don't have any musical. Like they're not muso fucking music. Like you couldn't be seriously into the Village People. You just couldn't be. But like everything
I must dig into it. I'd say of a few bangers, the hidden bangers. We're looking into it someday. But I know what you mean. Like it's marketed.
Exactly. It's just Barney the Dinosaur, and it wasn't even like there was interviews came out later saying we weren't a gay band. What are you talking about? Like, and everyone in the whole world is looking at them going, "What the fuck are you talking about?" Like. Like literally, like you were shooting videos in steel mills and all. That's why for Holly Johnson, when they were making videos, they were kind of taking the piss out of the Village People a little bit, but doing it in a serious manner because Frankie Goes to Hollywood were a serious fucking band. Like they formed out with this kind of weird Liverpool punk scene, and there was loads of people from that. The kind of loads of people that were in these punk bands with guys from. Frankie Goes to Hollywood went on to be fucking like huge in other bands. I actually wrote it down, and then I lost a piece of paper that I wrote down all the other bands that were kind of associated with Frankie Goes to Hollywood. I fucking lost the bastard. So as the 80s kind of goes on, you start getting into this, you start getting kind of Culture Club and stuff like that, and it becomes more of you got kind of Bowie, and you've got more kind of androgynous. Are they? Aren't they? Gay, they might be, they might not be. They're kind of too afraid to lean on any one particular, like Boy George comes out in like 1995, was like, yeah, I'm gay, and the whole world's like, fucking right you were, like whatever fucking year it was. Holly Johnson was like, this is fucking like Frank Goes to Hollywood are super fucking gay. Like this is what we're into. Much
and like at the time, do you know what it was as well? At the time, it's like you get these people who are in the middle, or they think they're in the center.
Yes,
going, look. I don't mind that they're gay, but why do they have to rub it in my face? Now I'm off to listen to AC/DC and Guns N' Roses.
Yes.
Talk about riding mats.
Just all they talk about, gargling and riding. But like, these lads are doing the same. Like,
no, yeah, it's the same.
Same thing.
He's literally not doing anything mad. He's just doing the things that he likes.
Exactly. He's not into mats. Exactly. So he's going to sing about it. So like I said, I think that Frankie Goes to Hollywood, Relax in particular, song was so fucking huge. I think it was incredibly influential for gay culture in the 80s.
It's huge. And it was one of the first success stories.
Exactly. For club goers as well, who would have, because there were gay clubs and they did have a lot of their own artists and stuff like that as well. But to have it, for it to go backwards, to have like a gay artist influence fucking bog standard straight people, super clubs all over fucking the world, would have absolutely been a massive boon for that culture, you know. For people wouldn't have copped it instantly. Like, people would have went out and bought that album and then kind of read the liner notes and looked at the photos and went, hang the fuck on. Like, I never, like, my outflow was obsessed with Frankie Goes to Hollywood. Like, they were one of his favorite fans for years. And I was like, fuck, I think it was like 1990 something. I'd listened to it 1,000 times since I was a kid, and I was like, you know, Holly Johnson's gay, and I was not gay. So that, like, get me gay. And he's like, and he turned around to me and went, yeah, no, yeah, but like, so what? And I'm like, well, why didn't you just say that first time, you stupid cunt? I'm not one of your street sweeper mates.
That's like being worried that listening to Tina Turner is going to turn you into an older black woman.
Yeah, exactly.
It doesn't rub off on you. You can enjoy the shit out of it.
Exactly. One of the before we move off this, one of the things I found out that's fucking amazing, and I have to go and try and find it, and you will absolutely appreciate this. In 1983, when Relax came out, Ocean Software, the video game manufacturers, made
I had love-hate with them.
Yeah, they made a Frankie Goes to Hollywood game.
Did they?
They made a Frankie Goes to Hollywood.
Why is this? I think you've dusted off some old cobweb there. Yeah. You knew that, Paul. Like, no, but I only half know. That's right. Those mini strokes you just gave me. Thanks.
The game. This is mental. The game was, I don't know whether you were meant to be in the band or just a regular person or whatever, but the whole game is based around the lyrics from Welcome to the Pleasure Dome from the album. And the whole concept of the game is that you have to explore this place called Mundaneville to try and find the Pleasure Dome. Right? That was the idea of the game. But it came with like a live cassette of Frankie Goes to Hollywood. But it had all these like micro levels in it that were based on song lyrics that they fucking walked around. And one of the first levels, wait, you hear this, one of the first levels is called The Sea of Holes.
I like this because I like video games. I should look at whatever. Yeah. No, I mean, I like the idea of it. You did put that one on me very sharply. That's all right, though. That's all right. Just for people that are not listening, Ocean is like then what EA is now, like a massive.
Yes, they sucked everybody up. They sucked everybody up back in the day. Yeah. So yeah, I'm going to try and find a copy of the fucking Frankie Goes to Hollywood video game, just so I can play that level, The Sea of Holes, which is what I want to play.
That sounds great.
I'd be mad into that game.
His autobiography is called A Bone in My Flute.
Really?
Yep.
Oh, very cool. So that's my 80s choice. So we're moving on to our 90s.
We're on the 90s.
We're on the 90s. We're having a ball. Who is your choice for the 90s?
So people that listen to the podcast a lot or the radio show or us, or I don't know why you do any of them, but look, fuck you do. We'll probably know what's coming from both of us on this one, but look, it's important. 90s is very important. I knew when I heard this song for the very first time, I remember where I was. I remember the exact position in the room. I remember thinking, I'm listening to something that is 100% groundbreaking.
Yeah.
This is definitely quite rare. And it's Paranoid Android in 1997 by Radiohead. First time I heard it, I just got this. What the fuck? Yeah. Now, I was already I waited for ages for this because I was a massive Radiohead fan. I think it might have been Eddie Temple Morris on MTV that was like, it's coming up, don't worry, it's coming up. I'm like, yeah, deadly. And that animated video and bits of it were blurred. Like,
I always remember the hairs on the back of my neck standing up.
Yeah.
About 40 seconds into it going,
what is happening? And at first, I didn't know if I liked it or not because it had to break what you thought. Because I was mad into them from the first album. Yeah, I think the gas thing is, I don't think. It was about a year before I heard Enema by Tool. I honestly think maybe Paranoid Android in 1997 might have been the last time I got that excited about what was happening in my ears.
Yeah.
Like that excited. I've been excited since.
Yeah, me too.
Like, don't get me wrong, but that was just like a moment where like you feel like a snapshot.
Yeah.
A snapshot of where you were in the room. I can remember what my ma's sitting room looked like then.
Yeah. When you die and your life flashes before your eyes, that will be a feature of it, like that moment.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I remember standing up. I remember looking behind me and going, I hope no one else comes into the room for loads of reasons. I don't want them to interrupt because this song keeps changing. We're on the third part of it now.
What's going on?
Chapters. I also don't want them to start asking me, what is this song?
That's mad. Yeah.
It's mad because it was prog in indie's little space on indie channels, on indie shows, and indie magazines, in a band, from a band who were up until then what I consider sort of indie band.
Yeah.
No, maybe at the time that wasn't such a bad thing to be, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So, I mean, The Bends was phenomenal.
Yeah,
but that album gave me, or anyone else, no indication what was about to come after.
Yeah.
After.
There was tiny little bits in the Bends where it was like, that's weird. Why are they doing that?
Yeah.
That's weird.
Yeah.
But it wasn't an indication at all.
No.
Because you heard Street Spirit and all, and you were like, oh, that's cool.
So, yeah, they went from like a grungy indie pop band with Pablo Honey to a much more, like you said, it's a more thought-invoking, mature rock band where you're like, oh, that's quite a jump. But the jump after that was
bananas.
It's still relevant now. Like if someone released an album that good now, it might not be. The only reason it wouldn't be is because it was Radiohead that did it. It's hard to know who would have done OK Computer if Radiohead hadn't have.
The way I always feel about this type of thing is that I'm waiting on the next album like that to come out. But even if the next album does come out, it will never be the same because it's not OK Computer. Like,
and also
it has its own slot on the shelf, like, and nothing else will ever be on that shelf.
I can't wear that album out, no matter how hard.
It's impossible. Honest to God, that's like crazy. Cheese pizza. You know what I mean? Fucking once every couple of days, no problem. What's bread, sauce, and cheese? What's fucking? You eat that all the time anyway. You know what I mean? There's nothing. What the fuck is wrong with that?
Yeah,
you know, it's delicious,
it's just you can't argue. It's unmistakably influential. Because it raised the bar so high overnight. When that came out, not just this song in particular came out, Britpop died a death. It was already dying, but that one put the gun against its head and went, Britpop, it's over.
See you later.
Like, it's just over.
It was fun while it lasted.
Yeah, you can't do little bluesy riffs anymore.
Your pub rock is dead. See you later. And I love loads of Britpop. I fucking love it. Supergrass, one of my favourite bands of all time. Like, I love loads of that shit. Like,
so they became like, I think they became like the next Pink Floyd with that. That was okay, we're in Pink Floyd territory, except I love Radiohead way more than Pink Floyd. This is an album full of like complex music, but a lot of noises and electronic parts that we hadn't really heard from them before. I don't think those parts have dated at all, and they should have.
No, they should have 100%.
Some of Radiohead's drum bits after have dated. But not this. It's too perfect. It's encased in ice.
Yeah,
in my memory,
it's in kryptonite. Not even Superman could break it open. Like,
it's just the most amazing dystopian masterpiece of an album that I've ever heard, and I ever will hear. Apart from one or two, we won't get into those. Like certain rap albums that I think are the OK Computer. But this raised the bar hugely for all rock bands after that, and influenced countless post-rock bands. That
big time.
They created Radiohead Light when Muse came out.
Yeah.
They
everything sounded stupid after this.
They fucking really, they struggled. People struggled. Yeah. Like that's what I'm saying. Muse was for people who couldn't, like the entry level Radiohead, because if people, although arguably Radiohead first two albums were the entry level to this, but whatever. Like I said before, it's really, really hard to quantify.
Yeah, I think I always said that I thought Muse just continued the Bends. They just kept making the Bends again. And we've said this 1,000 times. I like the first couple of Muse albums, they're grand. Later on, it's garbage. But I also feel that way about Radiohead. I know you have a different opinion. For me, I can't sink me teeth.
I don't like everything they've done after that, but I do think you can create another album almost as good as OK Computer from the other stuff. And
there's definitely bits that I really like on some of those other albums, but I don't think I could cut together. I'd have to go out of my way.
It takes a good few listens. Like I didn't like Kid A the first time I heard it, but now I like Kid A a lot. Look, they, like I said, it's hard to quantify the influence, but there's no doubt that they completely changed the landscape, and you could hear it with everything that kind of happened. Especially people, oh God, there was a lot of people. Like I said, Muse, when they first started off, I give them a pass because I did like them. But yeah, that's Radiohead, Paranoid Android as my most influential song from the 90s, apart from the one that you're about to tell us.
Yeah. Which is the most obvious song on the playlist by far. I mean, they're all pretty obvious, but this one is...
If you didn't pick this, I would have.
Yeah, it had to be done. This is the band and their song that I think is the reason there are still bands in 2020. And it's Smells Like Teen Spirit by Nirvana. It's... yeah. I think it's the reason that there are still guitar bands in the world. I think it's the reason that the 2000s were strong.
No, that's Fontaines DC, man. They saved guitar music.
Oh yeah, exactly. It's just, this was the alternative music national anthem, and love it or hate it, you cannot deny that this is the song that launched 100,000 bands.
Like some of your favorite bands,
exactly,
and even like Placebo, definitely. Like without grunge, Jesus Christ, if we didn't have grunge, we would have lost so much stuff.
Exactly,
and in the way that like OK Computer killed like Britpop, this killed glam.
This definitely killed this. Like alternative music. Like, okay, so Nirvana formed in like 1987. But they spent some time on Sub Pop, and then there was a weird fucking weird deal there struck between Geffen and Sub Pop, and there was weird fucking record labels after. Oh my God! Like
reading about this is fucking mad. Like we can't make enough of these albums to sell out.
That's why you'll find with the vinyl version of Nevermind is people are real fucky over it. You have to find there's only 2 or 3 countries. If you're buying an original press, you have to buy it from. There's literally only 2 or 3 countries where the quality was good enough, because the rest of
Germany.
Germany is one of them. That's
it's Germany.
Germany, yeah. That's where my one came from, anyway. Because I looked for it for fucking years. I have every single other Nirvana album, and I never had Nevermind up until about 2 years.
And what's the story with the pressing of the rest of them? There,
they were just pissed out real quick, and they sound a little. They sound all right, but they don't sound great. You know what I mean? I think it was Germany, maybe France, and like Canada or something like that.
Germany, the ones that put out Body Count with Cop Killer on the thing, weren't they?
Yeah, they're the only ones you can find. Is the German copy of Body Count with Cop Killer on it. But that's been bootlegged to death as well. That also Nevermind's been bootlegged to fucking death. So alternative music, by the time this came around, like Nirvana were in the mix with all these other fucking sub pop bands.
Yeah,
Mudhoney and fucking Soundgarden and all this kind of shit. And they had definitely, there was a big scene there, in particular in that kind of Pacific Northwest region of the States. But across the rest of the world, like alternative music was kind of on the out. Like the Pixies had kind of risen to a certain height and then fucked off, and hair metal was fucking huge.
The Pixies were broken up before they really got.
Before they got going.
80s, very
like
very
88 or 89 or so. I think So what happened when Nirvana hit is they basically just killed glam music. They just destroyed it, and they destroyed a lot of pop. And what happened afterwards is that fucking this kind of alternative music, and for some reason hip hop as well, start coming up with it, and they both became kind of two sides of the one coin. So if you think back to that period, you've got like
I always think back.
Exactly. So you think back to that period, you've got like, you know, kind of Nevermind fucking blasting off, and then you've got like fucking Doggy Style or something, you know, fucking rocketing up as well. Like there were always two sides, and you've got like Cypress Hill, you've got fucking House of Pain.
And at the same time, you'd have loads of rappers absolutely mad into Nirvana.
Wearing
the t-shirts.
Exactly.
So, fuck, this is the real deal. Like,
this is exactly. That was the beauty.
As they say, game recognizes game.
Exactly. Real recognizes fucking real. Like, that's the way it fucking goes. So they effectively destroyed the kind of glam movement and the big pop movement as well of the late 80s. You know, you have fucking New Kids on the Block and fucking like I don't know, Bros. I don't fucking know. Pull a name out of your fucking hole. These
like
bands,
there was much like new metal. There was a lot of bands jumping on the grunge bandwagon.
exactly.
And
But this is,
and I let them away with it. But Aerosmith were one of those.
oh yeah, everyone. Even Kiss put out one. Revenge. Revenge actually a great album. It's a great album.
They're actually
Yeah.
they're actually they can do that.
And they
sure,
had a
it's
crack
not
at
the
it,
same.
and they fucking, it's not the same. But even Kiss, were like the first album where they didn't have makeup on, and they're all wearing like fucking flannel shorts and leather jackets and all. Yeah,
They'll do whatever.
yeah, whatever. It's scumbags, yeah. But that album's actually pretty good. So what happened when this song hit, and this fucked up the entire record industry, this song, because nobody saw it coming. Nobody saw this song being that big of a hit. And what happened then was that all the A&R people and all the record labels, apparently this happened worldwide, where they all had these like emergency meetings and were like, what the fuck, like, we're after putting billions into fucking pick a band, pick a group, pick a singer, and it's selling nothing, and all anybody wants is this fucking Nirvana band. They want this Smells Like Teen Spirit song. They can't get enough of it.
How are we going to break this to Whitney Houston?
Exactly. So what happened was all these labels, they literally start buying up every single guitar band in America and England and Canada. They just bought them. They threw insane money at these bands. That's how you end up with your Bushes and your fucking whatever, you know. They just threw money like fucking maniacs across the board. And that then, even though this was them panicking, trying to like come up with a competitor to Nirvana, all they done was create this tidal wave of great fucking rock music. You know what I mean? You end up with your Rocker from the Crips. You end up with your fucking Bushes. You end up with like throw a fucking dart at a wall.
But do you remember it also actually bled into the English scene? Like Placebo are technically an English band.
Oh yeah.
Because they started up there, and then you've got other American bands that came up bigger in England, like Three Colors Red.
Yeah.
So the grunge was mixing with English.
Exactly. That English indie scene. And that, exactly.
It's great.
Exactly. Yeah, what you had this fucking, I always had two faces to the fucking rock scene. I always said you had your fucking kind of bright and chunky, bouncy rock music. And then you had your kind of miserable rain and English fucking rock music as well. It's such a weird fucking thing that this one song like fucked everything up for everybody, like, because A&R didn't see it coming, record labels didn't see it coming, and this tiny little fucking label, Sub Pop, had created this fucking monster, and the first people to jump on it were Geffen. That's why, like, Sub Pop are huge. If you go to like Seattle Airport, Sub Pop have a shop there that sells t-shirts and records in the airport. Like, they have their own stores. That's how fucking big it is. And
that's
before
so many people go there just to go
to Sub Pop stores. Like, Sub Pop are a fucking ridiculously important record label, and we should do a show about them at some stage. But this song was so fucking big. Like, no single band has ever influenced that many people to pick up instruments. I don't think. Like, we could talk about the Beatles all day, and like, oh my god, like, but the way I always look at it is that if you go back to the 60s, instruments were still fucking expensive.
Yeah, as well as that. You couldn't pick up the guitar and just start playing Beatles songs. They're still quite tricky and hard.
Oh yeah, exactly.
Like they people say they're not, but they fucking are. But this was almost punk. But
exactly. Well,
so
Kurt Cobain
pick it up.
Kurt Cobain has always said that, like, his favorite band were like Black Flag. The first band he ever went to see were Black Flag, and he wanted to be in Black Flag. You know what I mean? That was always his gig, and you can definitely hear loads of that kind of dissonant fucking guitar screeching and fucking that kind of driven punky backbeat that Grohl eventually brought to it. That's all kind of fucking hardcore punk stuff. But he found a way, when you go back and you listen to fucking Bleach, like, he just had this weird kind of formula that became, that we think of now. If you hear it, you go like, oh, but okay, you know, a jingle jangle fucking verse and a big fucking fucking chorus. Like, that was definitely around, but it was Nirvana who fucking perfected it. Like, it was there before. It was there before Nevermind, and it was absolutely nailed to the fucking mast by Nevermind. So every other band, go and listen to fucking 16 Stone by Bush, which was a huge album as well. Like, every song is just, he even sounds a bit like him. That comes to English.
It does.
You know what I mean? They're doing the same fucking stuff, and they're bringing in, I think even Butch Vig might have been on that bleeding, might have produced that album. Like,
probably.
Like, Butch Vig became the guy. You know what I mean? And he took all those lessons and was like, let's start my own fucking band. Let's just do garbage. You know what I mean? Let's do our own fucking thing and just do female Nirvana with some electronic stuff, because keyboards are cool, lads. Like,
and to be fair,
I like
successful.
loads of
I
garbage stuff.
like a lot of garbage.
Yeah.
I think it's mostly down to Shirley Manson, though.
Yeah, so she definitely has this. She has a vibe about her, doesn't she?
I feel like if that was an American singer, I would have went off them after a while, and that's not particularly. It's not a great thing to say, but it's something about her being Scottish. And every interview, she was cool as fucking, mad down to earth.
Yeah. She was never over the top. But yeah, I think that's the 90s from me. I think we might have nailed that era as well with those two songs.
Just look, the two biggest ones. I'm sure, like this, is what I'm saying. I'm sure there's people disagreeing. Well, you know what to do. Don't just disagree and go, "Oh, that's nothing." Get on the threads. Start pulling us up on this.
Tell us, 100%. So, what is your next one?
2000s. Not the best decade for music in general.
It's fucking. I found the closer the decades get to kind of now, the more wishy-washy they get. I don't think they've been solidified enough.
Of course, because the experimentation it can't be as rampant as it was from the 70s and 80s with technology. So 70s with like people buying musical instruments, like you said, to the musical cheap electronics from Japan in the 80s. All the experimentation has to come to an end, and to a degree, in like the broad spectrum, like eventually. And I reckon this is when we're starting to see the slowest. So the 2000s. This is a tough one, actually, a tough enough one.
It's difficult.
Most influential song of the 2000s, I would put on. And if I think about it too much, I'll change it. So I'm going to go with Eminem, Without Me.
Yeah.
Possibly my favorite rap song of all time, and it's Pinnacle Eminem. The tip for me of best song he's ever done. The pinnacle of his career, maybe as well. It's not that I'm blown away that like a white rapper can have that level of success. That's not what impresses me. It's how accepted he became and cited as an influence by some of the biggest names in the genre now and even around then. Yeah. So I reckon while the first two albums certainly impressed other rappers like Slim Shady LP and Marshall Mathers LP, I think it was the Eminem Show around now in 2002 when this
that's
came
definitely
out.
That's the one that fucking sent the flare up.
Yeah, that's when I think.
And it was kind of downhill after that as well.
It was
a rough fucking road.
It's peak. It's peak. It's on the way up there. Even if you listen to the first two Eminem albums now, they're not solid all the way through. Really,
there's bits of amazing,
and there's other bits where are corny. And he's trying too hard.
What's that? Bad Meets Evil. I think that's the first one. I think it's my favorite song. And it's fucking super. It's super.
So this 2002 is where he got the quirkiness just right for the charts, and just right for other rappers as well. I think to go right. He was just this mad, weird drug kid.
Yeah,
but now he's just got this swagger. He's talking about how great he is properly, and now he is great. We can tell
he knows now. Yeah.
His quirkiness it wasn't as outrageous as it was around then, but it was boisterous. And I think like we had in 1996 we had Busta Rhymes, who was the quirky game changer rapper. I think he had a massive influence on Eminem. But we're talking about 2002, so I'm not talking about Busta Rhymes right now. I think Eminem influenced people like, well, I know this because we're in the land of interviews now where you can read so many interviews. Tyler, the creator, cites him as a massive influence. He says, remembers the day you said he was 9 years old buying the Slim Shady LP, or possibly the one after.
That's terrifying.
Kendrick Lamar, the most important person in rap now, possibly. That's arguable, actually. That's really arguable because considering what I'm about to go into after this. But,
I remember the first time I ever heard Eminem was fucking "Hi, my name is" or whatever. My name is, and I was bunking off school, and I was hiding out in where the fuck was I? There used to be a pool hall on Sackville Place off of Collins Street. I don't know, it's probably still there. Just down beside the little side road beside Cleary's, and we used to mitch off school and go in, hide there, and just play pool all day. And they'd have like MTV on the TVs in the corner. And I remember I was waiting on my turn to shoot pool. The other lad was fucking knocking balls, and the song comes on. I was like, the fuck is that? And I sat there and they played it again about 20 minutes later. And I remember going home. I think I told this the story before. I went home and I shaved my hair real short and I bleached it blonde. And I was like, that's how I got my ear pierced and all. Got my ear pierced
for this.
Yeah. Got my ear pierced and everything. Yeah. And then I got infected.
You should have went to the fucking March of the Juggalos, whatever you call
Exactly, yeah. Honest to God, looked like a ropey juggalo. But that was real important to me as well.
Yeah. So, like I said, he was the first one that I knew of to do the kind of horror and cartoonish kind of themes mixed together before maybe Tyler the Creator and stuff like. He did talk slightly darker themes. It was less like gangland murder and more.
Yeah.
He's a serial killer. He's mad. So before J. Cole and Chance the Rapper and all are out there saying Eminem is huge influence on me, because these are the rappers who were growing up at the time Eminem was out. So he is massively influential, and I don't think he's far from the guy who did the most for rap. But in 2000s, you have to remember, he gave rap a shot in the arm.
Yes.
Because I think that rap, its worst decade is the 2000s.
Yeah. It's not.
I think 2010 onwards is so much better.
Yeah,
than
it's a different animal.
Think about it. You've got all your best gangster rap is gone.
It's gone. Yeah.
And
you're now into like Puff Daddy and fucking Mace and all this stuff.
Exactly. You're into this real pop stuff, and you're also 10 years away from more experimental and honest rap as well.
Yeah.
So you just, like you said, Puff Daddy did not do anyone any favors. Thanks for Biggie and all that, but like he would have been
fuck
found
off.
anyway.
Exactly.
So for me, I know a lot of people that got into rap because of this song.
Very much, yeah.
And it's not, I don't think it was because he was white. I just think it was because it had never been presented to them wrapped up like a cartoon, like a horror cartoon before.
Exactly. Yeah.
To a lot of people that I know. And I think that people who were into rap also loved it because of the bangers.
Yeah, exactly.
They're not going to say, "Oh no, I'm not into this," for whatever reason.
Riddled with bangers.
So look, controversial, mad, outrageous. I think this song. I think if I think about it too long, I'll find another song in its 2000s that is more influential. But it is a monster. It's a mammoth.
Yeah.
So that was me. That was my one for the 2000s.
Cool. My one is The Strokes with Last Night.
Oh, yes, big.
It's not going to take long to explain this.
It's a huge revival. I remember this huge revival.
So they formed in New York in 1998, and they kind of, I think they've just been messing around. They actually kind of have a similar backstory to someone like Velvet Underground, where they were all kind of art students and, they're kind of posh lads. They had a few bob, these cunts, and they decided to start playing music. They put out an EP. And I think in Jesus, when did they do it? 99, 2000, something like that. And it started this mega bidding war with the record labels. So they were tripping over themselves trying to get a hold of it, because nobody ever heard anything like this before. Now, I'm not a massive Strokes fan. They're fine. They're good. Like, I have a couple of records.
This Is It.
Eventually, This Is It comes out in, what fucking year did it come out? 2001. 2001, that album comes out. Now, the reason I think this is important is because it sparks this kind of garage rock revival that we're still feeling to this day. Like 20 years later, almost, we're still feeling it.
Yeah.
Like off the back of them.
Again, and for once, I'm not giving a dig, but it is cited up until like recently with Fontaine's mention as a huge influence.
Oh yeah, like that
so
was
still.
I know at least 10 lads who are like big into garage rock and like into classic garage stuff like Cramps and shit like that. And Primitives and all this, like all the way up to like stuff like Strokes and the Matchbox 80s Matchbox Beeline Disaster and all this kind of stuff like horrors.
Do you remember how danceable this song was?
Oh yeah, it was huge.
Like I remember, like after gigs and Whelan's, they kick you out, make you come back in again for the indie kind of club. Yeah. Man, they play like half of this album, if not more.
Oh yeah.
And New York City Cops, all the money. It's so dancey.
Yeah, it's super happy. Like off the back of this, you're looking at like White Stripes, Libertines, The Killers, Franz Ferdinand, The Hives, Arctic Monkeys. Like this album came very close to wiping out kind of new metal and hip hop. That like we said, you kind of got hip hop is in such a shallow shit state that like it didn't take much to push it over the edge.
It wasn't around long, and it overstayed its welcome. And I love it. But it wasn't out long, and it was too long.
Yeah, exactly. But like they actually said that there was nearly murder over it, because apparently Last Night is a lift of American Girl by Tom Petty and the Heartbreakers. And when Tom Petty found out, he heard it, and he went, "Grand, let them. It's fine."
He did that before, didn't he? He did that with something else.
Yeah, I don't think he was much of a
Red Hot Chili Peppers.
Yeah,
Danny California.
That's right.
Yeah.
But then he's one of those guys, just whatever. Like I got my fun out of it.
Then we figured he had lifted that from
that's right.
a band.
It was a triple lift, wasn't it?
His keyboard player was in another band that was touring
right.
with him, and he was like, "No, it's grand." It's like, don't keep looking into it now. You're good.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah,
it's like if you ever stole something that was on your mantelpiece and someone came in and went, or they stole it, and then you saw it on their mantelpiece, you couldn't say it because you know that they knew you'd stolen it. Yeah.
Too much, and also too much time has passed as well. Like you can't dig things up like that. But yeah, that's I had to pick Last Night just because we're still feeling like these reverberations kind of up until this day from, like I said, almost 20 years ago.
Yeah, like English rock music didn't go away, like I said, with Arctic Monkeys and even like Block Party and stuff like that.
Yeah. Like there's so many of those bands, and like you can draw that thread back to that fucking album. Like,
and there was even a vein of stuff like Test Icicles and
Cigarettes After Smoke. I suppose Cigarettes After Sex, and there was a bunch of those bands that had little nods across the board. There was Deer Hunter. There was fucking even Folds. There's definitely loads of fucking. Loads of Strokes in Fold stuff as well. Like it's a huge album. Like I said, I'm not the biggest fan. I like this album in bits and bobs. I was overexposed to it when it first came out. I was definitely overexposed to this fucking song. But the fact this is also like it's 2001, so you've got these lads start bringing a little bit of fucking style back into it as well. They were rough looking, but it was all kind of the best of gear. You know what I mean? Yeah, like the denim jacket was worn out, but it was like a fucking 1960s fucking vintage Levi's leather jacket, you know, kind of cowboy boots or fucking biker boots.
Yeah. It was well crafted by them, and I liked them. I like them.
Again, you're dealing with fucking kind of art students and stuff like that as well, who know how to put the complete package together. But I think that's the 2000s.
Yeah, it's not the best.
It's not great. So we're moving on to 2010s. I don't even know.
2010s.
The 60s, 70s, 80s, 90s, 2000s, 2010s. Like, how do you even say it? The 010s. It doesn't roll off the tongue like the rest of them, does it?
You'd say the 10s because no one ever thinks about like 90 and 10.
Maybe.
I don't know. You can't say the 20s because that's definitely the 20s.
Yeah.
I don't know. Yeah, the 10s. But then again, I don't know. 2010.
We had a 10s already. Could you go like the 10 twos? 10 twos, the revenge. This time it's personal.
I don't know. Yeah,
I don't know.
Tough.
Isn't it? Music. Basically, when the era doesn't roll off the tongue, shy.
We're going to get to the stage where people in 10 years are going to be talking about the 30s, but they'll be so young to us. They won't have a concept of the 30s that we know of, like jazz and shit like that.
But then again, you think about it as well, when we say the 60s, there was the 1860s and the 1760s. So you go with the closest one, I suppose, and the closest one now is the 10s.
Yeah.
So
yeah, that's what I'm saying. The concept of the 30s, we know what we can link the 30s to a style and stuff like that. But in 10 years' time, a 15-year-old is going to say, "Oh, it's the 30s." Will they? Maybe. I don't know.
I don't know. I don't know how it's going to work anymore.
Yeah. So we're on the 2010s, and I picked an unusual one, but it's the one that makes the most sense to me. This was a really hard decade to pick as well because in terms of influence, we've only had 5 to 10 years to figure out what anything has done or created or in terms of influence. So I thought to myself, like, what is huge now?
Yeah.
Like, what is massive now? And what's the newest style I can think of that comes out? And I have to say that the newest style I can think of and the biggest thing is emo rap.
Yeah.
And not necessarily trap, but sad boy and emo rap.
Sad boy, yeah.
And which is, for anyone that doesn't know, is kind of like sad bedroom SoundCloud rap that racks up millions of plays without even getting near a record label before that.
Exactly. So, like made on cunts fucking like laptops in a skate park. It's insane.
Yeah. So the biggest hitters in that genre are like Lil Pump, X Tentacion, Juice WRLD, and Travis Scott. The latter is the only one still alive out of those four from the last few years. But the guy I think that influenced all this, and this is a huge movement, and this is only going to get bigger as well, is Kid Cudi. The song "Erase Me" from 2010. This song could easily fit in with My Chemical Romance musically, let alone lyrically.
Yeah.
Just musically could be played alongside it. So he's discovered by Kanye West, who's actually on this track. It's weird that Kanye West didn't get on this, but
I don't know. I'm leaving him alone for a while.
I'm definitely leaving him alone for a while. I'll listen to that new album, but it's going to be a fucking Jesus.
It's going to be a fucking bin fire, is what it's going to be. No, can't wait.
He's no. Look, he's
Saturday.
On
Saturday. We'll go after Saturday.
Yeah. It was too hard to pick Kanye for a lot of different reasons. It was very hard to quantify Kanye West. He'd done loads of great things, with My Dark Twisted Fantasy. I nearly picked a song off that. Yeah. But I have to pick what is now coming up, and all Kid Cudi's influence is coming absolutely now. He started the whole thing with, here is a song, basically a slow rap song mixed with a bit of rock, with lyrics about depression, emptiness, and a whole spectrum of issues regarding mental health.
Yeah.
And surrounding it. Erase Me is, I think there's more influential songs from Kid Cudi just maybe in 2009, but realistically this song is so big that this would have been the one that definitely grabbed everyone's attention that was influenced by it. Like people would talk about like Little Pump and stuff like that. So here's a song about how sad I am. I'm not even hiding it. It's a million miles away from Don't Be a Pussy, Man Up, all the stuff that was from the stuff.
We have to say as well that like one of the biggest things associated with like kind of the sad boy movement and the emo rap movement is like the absolute like massive ingestion of stuff like Xanax,
drugs, Xanax,
like antidepressant drugs and like fucking beta blockers.
This is literally almost play for play what happened with grunge. It exploded from nowhere, in a different way. And already the biggest hitters are dead.
Yes. Yeah.
Do you know
Flash in the fucking pan, but like
madness.
Their fucking honestly, legacy is felt because it's digital now and nothing dies.
Yeah, I genuinely listen to some of this music. Some of it is really fucking good. And this is coming from someone who's now old. I'm old now. Yeah. I shouldn't have to be listening to this, but because I do a podcast and DJ and all, I just do. Right. So this to me, the influences of Kid Cudi is still going to be felt in another 5-10 years.
Yes.
Depending on what happens with sad boy and emo rap. But emo rap is, to me, one of the biggest things that has happened. I might not like all of it. I don't know where it will go. But like right now, as we stand now, I do find that emo rap is quite honest.
It's kind of pure. Yeah,
emo music, like emo rock music.
Yeah,
I think some of the big hitters in that were serious. I really think that Jared Way from Michael Rose was singing about how ambitious he was. Like, but there was loads of bands who weren't. They were just like, oh no, put a knife to my arm. Like, no, you don't. No, you.
Yeah, shook you. Slap.
So I do think that this is sort of the grunge of 2000. It is the grunge of 2010. It's got all the things they're talking about. They're talking about how fucking pissed off they were. These kids are fucking depressed. They're on mad medication. They're on too much of it, possibly. They're abusing it. They're singing about it. They're glorifying it. They're glorifying sometimes violence and shit like that. Whatever, man. Like it's you get to decide what you want to take from music. And as a fucking someone in their 30s, I'm not going, you know what, man? Yeah, I think I will do all that. So I don't know what the moral compass is. But that's my song from 2010. Kid Cudi, Erase Me. Who is it? And our last
one on it, is not a particularly good song. And the reason I picked the song is for very different reasons. I picked Uptown Funk by Mark Ronson with Bruno Mars. Right. First of all, this is one of the biggest songs ever made. This song is it's too popular. It's too popular.
One of the biggest songs in the last.
I think it's one of the top 4 songs ever in terms of sales. Yeah, in terms of sales. Yeah,
it's bigger than Happy. It's bigger than
It's
just bigger than I Got a Feeling.
Yeah, it's at one stage it was, I think, the number 1 selling song of all time, but I think it's in the top 4 now. Mark Ronson is weird. Born in London, moved to New York to be a fucking DJ or something like that. He's gone to school in New York. Became a hip hop DJ. Wasn't very popular. Started producing He put out a couple of his own albums, didn't do particularly well. They were all right.
Yeah, what did I pick one of them? I picked them on something recently. Oh, Feel Good.
Yeah,
one of the songs on the Feel Good thing.
Yeah, Feel Good was
with Q-Tip.
Yeah, Feel Good was one where he start. I think he had a lot of money. Now you have to understand that his stepfather is Mick Jones, not the Clash's Mick Jones, but Foreigner's Mick Jones, right?
Oh, so yeah.
He already had load of contacts.
His grandfather,
his stepfather.
Stepfather,
yeah, stepfather is Mick Jones from Foreigner.
I was only watching an interview with Mick Jones the other day, yeah.
And so there's a few quid there already, and there's also a musical legacy and a million contacts. So I'm not going to say he got lucky, because it turns out he's fucking smashing at what he does as a producer.
He is. He's fantastic. Like fucking, Amy Winehouse,
bananas,
Lady Gaga, and all.
Exactly. So he started getting work as a producer with loads of hip hop artists, and he started getting kind of into the pop world. Then he started banging out his own kind of compilation albums, like what this is on. Now, the reason I picked him and the reason I picked this song is because the way this song is produced is fucking insane.
Right.
He created this like almost new way of producing music. So this is the complete and utter opposite to like organic music. When you think of a normal song, a normal producer, they might be sitting at home in front of a piano or a guitar, and they'll come up with like, a little chord structure and and then they come in with that, they start piecing it together, and then maybe they'll bring the act in, let them start fucking around and see if they come up with something new, whatever. This is a different animal altogether. He heard Bruno Mars's band that used to have this little thing, this little fucking riff that was lifted from like an old Caribbean song or something like that.
He's
a tiny
a lot of stuff, Bruno Mars.
Yeah, exactly. So he had this tiny little fucking bit of a song that they used to fuck around with. And Ronson heard it, and he was like, there's something in there. There's something in there. So apparently this song, like, it took fucking years, and I mean years, to actually make this song. Every single instrument you hear, there's over 80 takes made. To the point where they had like a hard rock version of the song, like a fucking calypso version of the song, full hip hop. Like they literally forged this song out of fucking like dirt. You know what I mean? I can think of very few examples, especially in the kind of modern digital age, where they take a tiny little thing. And then this is done. Okay, right, we have this little bridge. Okay, because there's loads of stuff going on in this song. And then they start listening.
It's like a mixture of loads of other songs, but it's all trimmed down perfectly.
Exactly. They were sued into oblivion at the end of this.
Of course they were.
Yeah, right. The big one was the Gap Band with "Oops Upside Your Head." Oops, upside your head. I said, "Oops upside your head." Right.
Especially where it breaks down to no drums and just come on.
Exactly. So the Gap Band ended up with like 17% of the royalties in perpetuity.
Ooh, Gap Band are fucking brilliant, man.
Yeah, exactly. There was a fucking shit ton of them. Now we can bring it back to who you just mentioned as well. That one of the co-writers, now officially on paper, there's a fuck ton. There's like 17 credits songwriting on this.
Are those the ones that they had to
do? Yeah, where they had to add it on. But like realistically, you've got Ronson. I think you've got Mars or some guy from Mars's band, and you've a guy called Jeff Bhasker, right? And Jeff Bhasker is one of Kanye West's songwriters.
Oh,
right. He worked with him and produced 808s and Heartbreak, My Beautiful Dark Twisted Fantasy, and Watch the Throne. Right, so he's involved in the making of this song. Exactly,
very, very, very good albums.
Jeff Bhasker is heavily involved in making this song as well. So, like the whole song is essentially pieced together like chemistry. Where
here's the thing, I was going to say, they know so much about music that's a science. What
exactly,
they,
they broke it down into a science, and like we said, you got like Happy and stuff like that comes out later. But this is, as far as I'm concerned, this is one of the like. The fucking greatest musical endeavors of like just pig-headedness, where they had tiny little slips of songs and they start evolving them and adding stuff in, and then like they'd go and they'd listen to like fucking Chic or fucking Like there's a big Nile Rodgers fucking influence in this.
God,
there's loads of like Prince, there's loads of Earth, Wind and Fire, all this kind of shit. And apparently all those people came out of the woodwork afterwards going like, that's a bit of a lift now, what we don't hear. There's a little bit of that from this, and like that's where it was murder. But like I'm pushing my finger on this as one of the most influential songs simply in terms of the way it was produced. In that fucking, it was 1,000.
Even if you didn't say anything, I was just thinking, well, Mark Ronson, I know you're not picking it for Bruno Mars. You're picking it because Mark Ronson is one of the most influential
of the
last 10 years in pop.
Exactly.
Like he is, though. He's the biggest producer in pop at the moment.
Oh yeah, without a shadow of a doubt. And he has that touch. You know what I mean? Like you've got like Amy Winehouse was big, but Amy Winehouse was fucking huge off the back of fucking Ronson. Yeah. You know what I mean? Like she still would have been big, but would she have been as big?
He has that Jimmy Iovine thing where it's like, what about doing this song? Like they've got a song.
Yeah. He just has he has the ear and he has the eye.
Her first big song, Valerie, is a cover of that band. I can never fucking remember.
Yeah, I can never remember either.
Jesus, I should know. But not the Zootons, whatever. So like he has that thing like Ivan will be like, you should do that song, you should do this song, or else like he'll hear something in the middle of something and go, he's clearly got it.
Exactly. He has it. Exactly. Like I said, the reason I'm picking is this production style where everything is dissected 1,000 times, broken up 1,000 times until it's literally in its chemical fucking compounds. You know what I mean? It's literally chemical compounds. And then he starts putting it back together again. So I can only imagine what that fucking Logic window looked like, or fucking whatever he was using. Like it would have been
Pro Tools.
Exactly. New Mix 1, New Mix 1.2, New Mix 17.
Calypso version.
Exactly. Just fucking outrageous. So in terms of like production style, it sounds
you can't fault the production.
Exactly. It sounds great. But in terms of production style, that became such a fucking big thing afterwards. Like you've even said with fucking breaking everything down into maths. You know what I mean? It becomes fucking maths. It becomes chemistry. And becomes biology. It's science. Like
also what your man Britney Spears' producer, the
Swedish guy. Yeah, I can't remember his fucking name. Yeah.
Max something. He would find ways to steal scientifically.
Oh yeah.
I mean, like, this is part
11
of that
changes. I think it is. It's the way it works with graphics.
Yeah, just enough of a key. You know what I mean? You did that a lot with Britney Spears.
Yeah, like WWF entrance music. We're not allowed to use Back in Black. So instead of then, it's then, you know what I mean? Just
Avenged Sevenfold did their entire
their entire back catalogue. Yeah. But yeah, that's my my 2010s is
that's us.
Is fucking Mark Ronson with Bruno Mars for Uptown Funk, and you were Kanye West and Kid Cudi for Raise Me. That's the 2010s, lads. Like it's a weird one because it's so close, but
yeah, like I said, it's hard to tell where the influence is going to. Something else could have more of an influence that came out like last year or a year before.
Exactly.
I know a few bands
could be coming out today.
Think they're going to be, but you could say as well, like do what was it the Irish Times gave girl band the best
Irish album of all time.
Can't say a word I didn't hear. Haven't heard that girl band album yet. I listened to girl band and it does what it's supposed to do. Make me feel uneasy. I like that. Yeah. But I don't feel the rush to go back. You can make me uneasy like OK Computer did and make me also want to listen to it again and again and again. I'll give Talkies more of a go. But like I said, that like realistically, if we're following the papers, we should have put that as the. But then we don't know how much of an influence that's going to have.
Yeah, because it's still new enough as well.
Still new enough. Year-old Irish album. So,
exactly. Yeah. Anyway, that's us for this week. We're back in next Monday with a new podcast, and we're back Saturday. Fingers crossed. We've got a few more of these Saturdays to go because I don't know when I have to go back to work. I still haven't a fucking clue. It looks like the start of August, the 10th of August or something like that. And I still don't know what the roster's going to be. Like who knows when you're ever going back to work.
Yeah, my job is to get people together. It's not a good scene right now.
Yeah, and you're not allowed to do it. So who knows what the fuck is going on. So we're going to keep things are still the same as they were 4 months ago. So we're going to keep going with our Saturday night shows. Podcast won't change. We'll always have time for podcasts. But Saturday night, you can get all the information on lostartpodcast.com. That's got links to our Patreon, which is patreon.com/Lost Art Podcast. It's $5 a month. I hate having to do dollars. You can't set euros. I'm sorry. Or pounds or whatever the fuck money you use. fucking Swahili fucking gold nuggets. I don't know. Like, I hate having to use dollars, but whatever. It's $5 a month. That gives you access to loads of exclusive content. I made a video last night with one of my dogs and put it on Patreon explaining what my dog's favourite albums were, which seems to be very popular.
Also, if you could share it, if you liked this episode, send it to someone. Share it, please. Or comment on it and tell us whether you're wrong or right. Or like, oh, we didn't know that. Jesus Christ. Like, every time you mention, like, or share something, Facebook thinks that we're important. And that's very important.
Yeah, it's hiding all of our stuff because it wants us to pay for everything.
If you just listen to this and go, that was deadly, and don't tell Facebook, they
assume you hate it.
Yeah.
And they want to bury you. Exactly. So just share it. Like it, share it. Say good one or disagree with us. Whatever you want. Do fucking something though.
Jesus, share it going, this is an absolute travesty.
Anything at all. Yeah. Anything at all.
They went from Beatles to Mark Ronson.
Exactly, yeah.
Okay.
In an hour and a half. Anyway, gang, that's us. We're back again next week and see you on Saturday for a few drinks and some more Scooter talk and tunes. Good night.
See you then.